Deputy Foreign Minister Roman Vassilenko. You're here in Brussels for the ASEM conference. What outcome is Kazakhstan looking forward to from this conference?
Well, Kazakhstan joined the ASEM Summit in 2014, and this will be the second time that our president is attending. We are bringing to the table a very solid set of proposals that our president is expected to deliver with the focus on connectivity. As you know, Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country in the heart of Eurasia, so naturally for us, the matters of connectivity, of connecting infrastructure, of connecting people, of connecting businesses, of connecting ideas is very important. And naturally, as a land bridge between Europe and Asia, we would like to be part of these discussions. We would like to be part of the solutions to the many challenges that face the huge landmass of Eurasia.
The European Commission are looking at a separate Eurasian strategy for the year ahead. Is that going to be an important plank in what's being discussed tomorrow, or is that an issue for next year?
Well, let me say this. Kazakhstan is, of course, part of Central Asia, and in 2007, the European Union first adopted an EU strategy for Central Asia. It was then updated in 2015, and now a decision has been made to develop a completely new strategy, which is to be adopted next year, probably by the middle of 2019. What is important is that countries in the region, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, they were consulted and are being consulted as the European Union develops that strategy. And we were able to contribute our vision as to what needs to be included in such a strategy, and we have submitted our proposal to the European External Action Service. Our idea is that the EU strategy so far has proven to be rather successful. We would like it to be more focused on matters such as helping promote private entrepreneurship, helping to promote women entrepreneurship, helping to promote education, and of course helping to promote connectivity within Central Asia and between Central Asia and the European Union.
An issue that will be part of the discussions this week will be security. What role will that strategy play in making the region more secure in general, not just for your region, but for both Asia and the EU?
Well, let me say this. Kazakhstan has worked with the European Union to advance the agenda of sustainable development in Central Asia. For we believe that once there is a sustainable economic growth and growing prosperity of the people, naturally the incentives for extremism and other security threats are diminishing. So over the years, we have been working with the European Union to strengthen the rule of law, to strengthen the economic foundations of our societies. And that is also going to be part of the agenda going forward. Let me also add that Kazakhstan is European Union's largest trading partner in Central Asia. For Kazakhstan, the European Union is largest trade and investment partner, accounting for 50% of our trade and 50% of our investment. So, as I say, we look at strengthening the economic foundations of our societies, the economic side of our cooperation with the European Union, in the understanding that that would diminish security threats. Of course, there is an issue of Afghanistan, which is on everybody's mind, and Kazakhstan has contributed to the stabilization of the situation in Afghanistan. We have provided education for 1,000 Afghans, and what is significant is that in September of this year, after several months of consultations, EU High Representative for Foreign Policy, Federica Mogherini, announced that the European Union, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan will jointly implement the educational program for Afghan women, whereas the Afghan women will be brought to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and trained there in peaceful professions. So that is part of our overall cooperation with the European Union. I should also add that Kazakhstan this year is the member of the UN Security Council, and again, matters of security and development in Central Asia became among the top of our priorities, and we strongly focused on the nexus between security and development in Central Asia and in Afghanistan. And as part of our membership of the UN Security Council, and especially as part of our presidency of the UN Security Council in January 2018, we specifically arranged several events and ensured the adoption of an important document by the UN Security Council, which is a presidential statement and which features the approach of the international community to the situation in Central Asia and to the way forward for Afghanistan. Naturally, here is where we can and we will work closely with the European Union, and the educational program is just one example of such cooperation.
Another area where Kazakhstan has played a very important role is in the Astana process, which is linked to obviously the situation in Syria. How do you see that going forward? The European Union has said that it's willing to come in and help with redevelopment once this conflict hopefully comes to an end. Can you see that conflict coming to an end in the near future, and how important is the Astana process to that?
Well, the Astana process has now been going on for almost 2 years. It began in January 2017. It had 9 rounds of talks in Astana, but then it sort of grew out of that, and as you know, some of the discussions took place well beyond Kazakhstan's borders. Our initial approach was that we offer the location, we offer the hosting services, we offer our hospitality for all the parties of the talks, including the 3 guarantor states, Russia, Turkey and Iran, as well as obviously the direct participants of the conflict, which is the Syrian government and the armed opposition. And that worked in the sense that over these 9 rounds of talks, the parties were able to agree on several important matters, such as the establishment of 4 so-called de-escalation zones. And the situation now in Syria on the ground is very much different from 2 years ago. We should all admit that. But naturally, as we all look to the future and as we all look to the time when the conflict hopefully ends, the big question, a very big question of reconstruction arises. There, Kazakhstan is willing and interested in stronger international cooperation in that matter, in contributing to the stabilization and restoration of Syria. And naturally, since the EU is the largest international donor, I think there is a great role for the European Union to play once peace is established in Syria.
Kazakhstan is also quite famous for its role in nuclear non-proliferation. You have very high uranium reserves within your country. The EU are going to be looking at a situation with Korea, and it always remains a concern in relation to other countries as well. You mentioned Iran, about the ability to make sure that we don't have further nuclear proliferation across the world.
Well, let me say this. Kazakhstan, of course, dismantled what used to be the world's 4th largest nuclear arsenal. It took us more than 2 decades to dismantle that arsenal and the infrastructure that supported the nuclear weapons testing in Kazakhstan. But for us, it's a matter of principle, a matter of top policy priority, that we seek the establishment of a world free from nuclear weapons. So for us, it remains a constanta, something that we will continue to be engaged in and pursuing for as long as it takes to build the world free from nuclear weapons. Some may say this is a utopian vision, but we think that it's achievable. And our own example shows that your best way to security, your best chance to be successful, to be prosperous as a state, is to be part of the community of nations. And to do that, you relinquish nuclear weapons and you establish mutually beneficial relations with others. Speaking of Iran and North Korea, We have supported the talks on Iran's nuclear program, and we have contributed to both the success of the talks, which resulted in the adoption of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and in its implementation. And we're now firmly of the opinion that this is the best deal that the international community has been able to strike. We think that it should be continued and implemented, and this is certainly our firm view that it should be strengthened and supported. In terms of North Korea, naturally we are encouraged by the many signs of progress, of talks between North Korea and South Korea, between North Korean president and the US president and other officials, and we hopeful that these talks will result in concrete agreements on the demilitarization, denuclearization of North Korea and the entire Korean peninsula. We offered our experience as a help for North Korea if and when it engages in nuclear disarmament, and we offered this experience to others to look at our experience, to learn from the pitfalls that we had over the 2 decades of disarmament, but also learn from the successes so that there is no need to repeat mistakes.